Alright, welcome back. See, the aquarium has taken on a completely different look. It's been a few weeks now, and I've been able to replant a little bit of it, and the plants have started to grow back too. I've also done a lot of rock work and got my filter system put in place, and lots of current, as you can see. So, let's start talking about the filtration system, which was really why I started doing these videos, to show this, see if this theory worked about the filter box, and put it into practice and see how it worked. So, if you can't tell, I'm kind of a DIY guy. I don't buy a lot of my stuff from the stores. You know, I buy the actual filters from the stores, or the actual pumps from the stores, because I can't make pumps, as it seems, but I can certainly make filter systems, and that works just fine. And so I really like to do all this kind of stuff by myself, rather than just going and buying a pre-made unit. So you can see the aquarium, it's not exactly a living room aquarium. You know, it's on a 2x4 base, and obviously the pump housing, as I showed you guys in the last video, the pump housing I made out of plexiglass, which just came out of storm doors. So that's all DIY. And then, as you can see, my LED light system is also DIY, which is basically, and of course it's going to get kind of dark when you remove this, it's just made out of an aluminum patio door sill, which you can kind of see here sitting over the end of my other aquarium. It's just a 6-foot long patio door sill for the to use for the heat sink, which is basically just the whole base of it. And then I mounted all the LEDs onto it. Yeah, let that kind of clear up, and you can see I've got a bunch of different colors in there. I've got some cool white, I've got some blue, some red. I used to have some greens in there, but those ones burnt out. And you can also see, go inside here, and it's just the wiring's just kind of open, and it doesn't, you know, it might worry some people that, you know, I'm going to have a fire or whatever, but that's not going to do anything. Then also, you can see my hood is basically some pieces of capping. Like I said in the other video, I work at a windows and doors company, so plexiglass from storm doors, because I get that pretty regularly, and then the patio door sills, because I remove patio doors all the time, and aluminum capping comes to me pretty normal, because that's what we put over door frames. So all this stuff is just readily available, and I've just figured out ways to make use of it in a DIY system. So let's talk about my filter then. As you can see, and why I talked about the, you know, me doing things on a DIY basis, which is that I like to experiment with stuff. I like to come up with an idea and then see if I can make it work. In the original video, I said that I had measured this out to the depth of the aquarium, so that way it would fit this way. And I've got it turned this way. Why is that? Well, because I mismeasured. So part of the learning process and part of doing things yourself instead of buying things is making mistakes and learning from the mistakes. And my mistake in this case is that I measured from the inside of the glass to the inside of the glass, and didn't figure for the lip of the aquarium, and so I could not fit the filter box into the aquarium sideways because it was just too wide. So I had to turn it back the other way, which caused another problem, which is that, if you'll remember, I put that nozzle on the front of it because which you can't see it because I've cleverly, oh, there it is right there. Tried to hide it with some rocks, but there's the nozzle that I was going to hook up the power head to, which was supposed to, since the filter box was going to sit this way, the nozzle would go that way and would be in the back of the aquarium, so that way I could just run a line right through the gravel and you would never have to see it. Instead, now the nozzle is sitting here, so I've had to snake and hence why my rock structure is the way it is, because I've had to snake a tubing all the way back there to where the power head is hidden in the back corner of the aquarium. And you can't really see it until you get real close. You can see some of it there. There's a little bit peeking up, which that can be just covered up with gravel, and I've just gotten basically lazy and haven't done it. But, you know, problems, mistakes, that's alright, you learn. The big issue was having it on the side like that, or having it flat with the back of the aquarium as opposed to flat with the side of the aquarium. Was that going to kill the current problems that I was having, or would that just accentuate the current problems? And since that was the point of making it in the first place, if it solved the current problem, then that's fine. I'll deal with all the rest of the issues later, rather than deconstructing the whole thing and having to build another one by recutting everything again, which was definitely what I didn't want to do. And as you can see, it's working just fine. I have a almost completely unidirectional current. It's all going to the right and all going back to the filter and being sucked in by the filter. You can see the plants in the back are not being pulled to the left, and you can see this looks like it's particulate matter, but actually it's just oxygen, because I have my spray bar out of the water in order to oxygenate the aquarium. And so a lot of this stuff, this isn't particulate like it was in the previous video. It's mostly just oxygen, little bubbles and stuff. But you can see the bubbles are all going to the right now, which is exactly what I wanted. And so this is working. This is working very well, actually. The rebound, and you can probably see, getting a good glare here, you can see some of the rebound. You can see some particulate is hitting the back glass and is going down, but the vast majority of it is getting sucked into the aquarium, or sucked into the pump. Let's see if we can pull this back. I can hold it here for a second, and I don't know if you guys can see that or not, maybe not, but you can see a lot of it is just getting sucked right into the filter housing. So what I've got in there, then I've got I think in the other aquarium, or in the other video, I made a mistake and said 800 gallon per hour. It's actually a 500 gallon per hour waterfall pump that's sitting about right there, and that's sucking in, and then it's going into, you can see that tube right there, that's going back there, and then this lovely makeshift hood of mine. So the tube goes right there, and I've got an on-off switch just in case I need to shut it off real quick, which isn't good for the pump, but if I was, you know, let's say something disconnected and I was getting water blasting everywhere, I would need to turn that off right away, and that's a good way to do it. It's going into there, and then coming back down here where I've got this PVC pipe going into the aquarium and down into my spray bar, which I have nicely camouflaged with a whole bunch of lumber, and there's a nice big piece of green plastic which I need to get rid of, obviously. And so I've still got work to do, as you can tell, and that's alright. It's all a process. Like I said, life happened, and so I'm kind of short on time and trying to do what I can with what I've got, and that's just the way it works sometimes. But so you've got a 500 gallon per hour pond pump in there, and then I've also got another, and you can see this tube coming out of the top, not an Eheim filter, but just another standard. I think it's probably about anywhere between an 80 to 150 gallon per hour waterfall pump again, and that goes to this guy, which is feeding right across the surface of the water. Now the reason for that, why would I have it across the surface of the water instead of dumping into the aquarium itself, is that this is a river aquarium, and so I want it to look like a river. And if, as you can see, and it's not showing up real well in the video, but it looks a lot better in real life, you can see that you can see that rippling in the light rather than just having a uniform. There, you can see a little bit better there. Rather than having a uniform light pattern, you can see the light ripples like you would expect it to if you were snorkeling or something like that. And the way that you get that is by very, very bright light, which I can achieve with the LEDs, and then lots and lots of surface commotion. So the spray bar creates a lot of surface commotion, and this guy laying flat across the top of the water, which you can't really see with the Vallisneria, so it's nice and hidden, is also creating a lot of surface commotion. And what you get from that is rippling light, which looks really cool, looks really, really natural, and is really what I'm shooting for. So filter was a success, and it worked really, really well. Now, as far as troubles with it, let's talk about some troubles. So one thing that you need to think about if you're planning on building something like this is that if your pump is too strong, you will actually cause your filter to lift up out of the aquarium and become completely buoyant. And the reason for that is, which is something I learned, and this is a brand new pump because my other pump burned out, because that's exactly what happened. So all the water is dumping into here, and then it's going down, and you can see that there's a little gap there between this baffle here, and there's another baffle about right there. So the water goes all the way down and then comes back up again and feeds into where the filter is housed, which is in this area right in here. If the draw from this area is too strong, is stronger than the draw from here, what will happen is that your pump will pull all of the water out of this area, and that side will not resupply with enough water, and so you'll just drain all the water out of it, and then there'll be no water in there, and the whole thing will pick up and pop up. And it doesn't matter if you weight it down with rocks, it doesn't matter if anything. If it's filled up with water, forget about it. It's going to lift up out of the water, in which case then your pump's not going to have any water in it, and your pump will burn out, which is exactly what happened to mine. So another learning process. So even though I've actually got more in here, because I've got the large pond pump, and then I've got the small waterfall pump, and then that nozzle again down there is going to my power head on the other side. I've got 3 pumps running this thing. I have still managed to I had to take down some of the filter matter, the mechanical filter matter that I had in there in order to increase the water flow. So that's fine. As long as I'm getting filtration, that's good. I don't have to have perfect filtration, and I don't have to have tons of it. Really, the thing that I want is water movement, and so I achieved it, and it worked perfectly good. But, like I said, if you're looking at this and you're saying, oh, this looks like a good idea, I think I could do this for my aquarium, don't stuff your filter housing with tons of mechanical filter material, because fast-moving water, as I've found out, it just kicks up everything. Nothing settles. And so, especially with having a whole bunch of minnows, which minnows are mostly bottom feeding, and I'll go over all of these fish in a different video. I kind of went over it in the first one, but I'll go over these again in a later one. With having minnows tend to be kind of bottom feeders, sort of like goldfish, and when they kick stuff up, it just hits the current and just takes it. So anything that gets kicked up into the water is going to end up into your filter, and if your mechanical filter material is too dense, if you've got too much of it in there, you're going to restrict the water flow to the pump, and then the pump isn't going to be able to, it's not going to be able to pull enough water out of the intake. And what's going to happen is you're just going to drain that area, and then there's not going to be any water in there, and the whole thing's going to pick up. And if you're not home, if you're at work or something, your pump's going to be dead when you come back. And then, to make matters worse, and I didn't figure this out right away, but thankfully I thought quickly and I was able to save practically all my fish. But when the pump burned out, I didn't go and get one right away, and then I just kind of turned on the power head and thought that was enough, but apparently that was not enough oxygen for all these fish. And so one day I woke up for work and I got all ready and I was about to head out the door, and I turned the lights on and every single fish was up at the top gasping for air. And I was like, I had pretty much resigned myself to thinking that they were all going to die by the time I got home, but luckily I was quick enough thinking that I just hooked up an air stone and stuck it in the wake of the power head, and that was enough to keep the vast majority of them alive. I did lose 3 of them. 2 of them were my favorite fish out of the entire school, but you know, I'll take what I can get, and the fact is that they're just minnows and I can catch them readily pretty much anywhere. You know, and I know the streams to go to get them, so it's not a huge deal. But you know, those are things that you want to look out for. Make sure that you've got enough flow. Make sure that you're not restricting the flow to the pump so that the filter isn't functioning the way that it should, so that the pumps are able to get the pump has access to all the water it needs to be able to keep the flow going. So that's that for the filter, and I'll go over the rest of the stuff I think in another video. I'll do one just on the hood, and that should be a little shorter, and I'll show what I did for the hood and how I built that, and then I'll also go over, have another video on the fish and the different species of fish that I have here, since they're native fish and most people don't look to their native streams for aquarium fish. They usually just go to the fish store, and that's good enough, and it's really expensive, but whatever. I'll probably just put the plants in with the one on the fish or something like that. I'll talk about the plants that I got. And that should do it. So thanks for watching. If you're thinking about doing a stream video, you might want to think about my setup and think of better ways to replicate it and learn from my mistakes, and maybe you'll be able to get a real nice fast-moving stream aquarium in your house. So hopefully this was a help to you, and take it easy.